but they do a lot on the education side. And so, you know, I know that you would probably just love to fill out requisitions and things all day, but you know, there's probably other things you could probably use your time best for, yeah. So that's what we're looking at doing. So I want to introduce our project team at this point. So Marina Manzano is sitting up here. Most people know Marina. They actually know her more than they know me, and that's great, because then they can bug her and not bug me as much. But Marina's Marina's our CSU BY project lead for a campus, and the change co-lead with me for this campus. She's most of the time more involved because I have so many different areas to oversee, so I really appreciate Marina, you know, involvement in this, along with Tina Livingston, who's our interim payment services manager, which I'd love to make it more permanent. Tina's been experienced in the management side of the house, and you know, so she's been getting mentored by our previous senior payment services manager, which is Becky Lappin, and she's helping with this project along with some other things that we've been working on, including something, what's the card we're looking at, working on right now? Instant card. Instant card, which is like a debit card, which will make it easier for you to be able to do purchasing. It's a preloaded card to use like a regular debit card, and so we're always looking at things that we can increase efficiencies and make your life a lot easier. So, you know, keep that in mind. We also have Bianca, who's sitting up here running the car, and I'm going to try her last name, and hopefully I don't remember it. Wogemuth. Muth?
Yep.
Okay, I got it.
You got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then is Philly? No, Philly's not here. Right? So Felicitas Alvarado, which many of you know, Philly handles the supplier management of what we're doing with Procure to Pay. And so Procure to Pay, and Marina will go into it here in just a second. It's as easy as it sounds. You buy it, you pay for it. It should be that simple, right? So that's what we're trying to do. Streamline things, make it more efficient. And like I said, I really appreciate you being here and listening to the presentation that Marina's going to give. And so now I introduce Marina, and give her a big round of applause.
All right, thanks, Mike. Well, you pretty much covered it. That's all, folks. Just kidding. We do have some participants via Zoom. We do have an individual that's monitoring the chat on Zoom. So for those of you participating in Zoom, if you have questions, you can put that in chat, and then we'll get to the questions. This presentation is two parts, so I'll start off with introduction of P2P, and then after that portion is over, we'll start on Change Champions, what that is and what that means, okay? And that's kind of the agenda. I should not have printed my slides back to back, but bear with me so I don't lose my spot. So what is CSU BY? CSU BY is the first step in transforming the way the CSU manages the source to pay process. So that's what we're calling it, from sourcing when you submit a request to purchase something, right, to when we actually make that payment. This change creates a foundation for future implementation of automated workflow, requisitioning, purchase orders, AP functionality through integration into CFS and Oracle. So other modules in the CSU BY system have already been implemented. I know most of you are familiar with the Marketplace module, where you can shop on catalogs that have contracted pricing for the CSU. We also have a sourcing bidding module that the procurement staff uses when we bid things out. We have a contract repository the CSU has created, and we're working on migrating our campus contracts to that module as well. And there's an analytics that we can use for running data on vendors, on campus spend, in different categories, system-wide spend. So those have already been implemented and are in use. So this is the third phase, next slide please, of the CSU BY, which is the Procure to Pay. So again, the implementation of strategic, standardized procurement processes. And I'd like to emphasize the standardized because, you know, we are one of 23 campuses in the system, and while we all have the same legal requirements, policies, etc., the processes vary widely by campus, and data is not commonly shared. which has been problematic. You know, we had a person in our office who came from another campus who'd been working at the CSU for over 5 years, but coming here, they really had to almost relearn everything, the processes that they did things by, because every campus is so specialized. So, you know, part of this implementation is so that we are more standardized, have similar processes throughout all the campuses, and have a way to kind of be able to get that data so it's not so segregated and so our processes aren't so different from each other's. Now we're going to show you a little video on what is CSU BUY. Bear with us while we have a little bit of technical difficulty.
Gotcha. Thanks. Let's go and stop your share real quick and start it again. Your screen. Share your video. It hasn't changed yet, has it? Let's see if this.
I also really want to thank everybody that came on today. I know it's sometimes difficult to get away. There's so much stuff we have going on, especially with the semester gearing up to start soon. So I really do appreciate you guys making the time to be here.
Okay.
At the California State University, we educate, discover, and inspire every day, and that requires the right tools. But dealing with multiple interfaces, systems, and processes can mean not having what we need when we need it most. Not anymore. Introducing CSU BUY. CSU BUY will expand its functionality to include the procure-to-pay process. Procure-to-pay, or P2P, will transform the entire way we purchase goods and services, from requisition to payment and everything in between, allowing our faculty and staff to focus on more engaging and productive activities. We'll be able to sign on, shop our favorite catalogs, and choose from our frequently used account codes all in one place. From just the essentials to the advanced tools crucial to our teaching, research, and support services needs, CSU BUY is the procurement destination for everything. And no more wondering where requests are in the approval process. Requests go directly to the right approvers who can approve anytime, anywhere, and can be tracked in real time. Simple off-catalog requests for goods or services just require completion of an electronic form so we can get what we need fast and get back to what matters most: educating, discovering, and inspiring. CSU BUY is one example of how the CSU is modernizing systems and processes. Learn more at p2p.calstate.edu.
All right, you guys all got it, right? I realize that this is a kind of a different thing to embrace and to understand, and that's why our goal is to get this information to you as much as possible, get it out to you, make you aware of when sessions are going to be held and when training is going to be held. So it's all coming. So P2P objectives: develop this streamlined platform into one streamlined. Develop a system-wide platform into one streamlined solution, right? We talked about that. An easy-to-use solution. Visibility to preferred sustainable suppliers, and guide end users to contracted suppliers. A lot of times we may get questions from departments on like, how do we find a vendor for this? Or how do we know who our approved vendors are or local vendors are? Once we're up and running and have our suppliers in the system, that should make it a lot easier for you guys to see who's already been approved, who's in our system, that type of thing. Drive process efficiency through integration and automation. Improve compliance, be able to pull data for audits and that type of stuff, and as well as reduce costs, you know, by getting that data and comparing it through all 23 campuses. What are the suppliers that we use most often, and is there an advantage to doing a system-wide deal where we can get a better pricing for all 23 campuses as opposed to each campus doing that independently? Who is impacted by CSU BUY? Well, for the primary stakeholders are procurement, obviously, because our procurement Buyer/specialist will review the requisitions, the approved requisitions that they receive, and process the purchases and oversee any kind of bidding process that's involved with that. AP technicians who process and review invoices and payments. Campus supplier management, so currently Felly is the one who creates vendors in our system and ensures that they have submitted the appropriate tax paperwork, right? Campus customers, because probably every single person in this room at one time or another has submitted a requisition to buy something for business purposes, right? Department approvers. That could be managers that approve requisitions off the DOA, so they're an authorized signer for that. It could also be person that manages the budget, so a budget analyst, right? And then we have what we call supporting administrative departments, which includes areas like IT, safety and risk, facilities, human resources. So they have to sometimes review and approve a requisition for certain criteria. So for example, if you're submitting a requisition for something that's considered a building modification, then that may need to run through facilities for their review and approval before we can release that order and contract for that work. And currently, that all gets funneled through procurement, and then procurement has to route it for these secondary review and approvals, which doesn't give you guys the information that there's this additional review that's being done, and a lot of times the assumption is, well, why is procurement holding this order for so long? Why haven't they ordered what I need? Not realizing where it's at in that process, right? So this will enable us to have a system where there's a lot more transparency, and then you could follow up with the appropriate department to see it's in their queue, and then kind of nudge them to like, hey, what's going on with my request, right? And then the other one is suppliers, so the vendors that we buy goods from. So the impact for the stakeholders. Presently, you guys will submit a requisition. It's a manual form that honestly does not give us the detail that we need. Oftentimes is incomplete, doesn't have, sometimes the chart fields aren't accurate or correct. And then that gets routed for signature and then gets submitted to procurement. Most of the time through Adobe Sign, sometimes that gets emailed directly to us. And then currently, I review all requisitions that come into procurement. Now I have an associate director, if you haven't met him yet. His name is Stefan Sanchez. So either he or I will review every single requisition that gets submitted for compliance and if we have questions and everything. In the new system, Future State, that requisition will be inputted by the user, which is most often you guys. So that will get routed through the system. So for any secondary approval that's needed, those approvals are going to be built into this system. So it has to go to human resources for independent contractor review, for those who I've discussed that with. If it has to go to facilities, if it has to go to safety and risk for insurance. We're building these reviews in, and you will have the visibility to see where it's at and know what step it is along the way. So then it won't enter procurement's queue until it all checks out. So it's a valid chart bill string, a valid signer, any secondary approvals that are needed have been done. The supplier has been onboarded. So it comes into our queue, and then procurement would then be able to process that. Accounts payable. So right now invoices come in a multitude of ways. I think you guys have went like procurement where it's just primarily electronic copies, right? You no longer take hard copies, but it comes via email. Sometimes it used to come via campus mail. And then the approval processes can vary by campus. And then each campus has their own process for managing taxes, state requirements, and compliance. So Future State is the review and approval process for invoices will occur in the system. So it won't be an email that you'll get from an AP tech saying, can you please approve this invoice? And maybe it's sent to a person who's on medical leave and we don't know, we're out of the office, or, they send it then to their manager and somehow it gets lost in translation. And so there's all these delays in our current system because we are dependent on multiple systems and manual processes. So this will create efficiencies and everything will be built in so you have full transparency from start to finish. Campus supplier management. So oftentimes procurement for any new vendors has to be the ones to send the tax forms, request the insurance, obtain any documentation that's needed from the vendors to have them created as a supplier in the system. And then we forward it over to Belly in accounts payable, who then reviews it, and then she'll let us know if there's something wrong, and we have to be the go-between between the supplier, AP, back and forth on various details. So the nice thing is in this system, vendors that are not currently existing in the system will have the opportunity to onboard themselves. So if you put in a vendor who's not existing in the system, you would request to add that vendor. They would then get notified within the system, via email that, someone has requested to use your company or service, so please go to this site, register, and onboard yourselves, and then they then upload their paperwork. Yes?
Is this for foreign vendors as well, or just domestic vendors?
This is for all vendors. And any vendor that we're making payments to, right? Because that's the primary intent for P2P is.
So if there's a foreign vendor and there's extra paperwork that needs to be done, extra forms or whatever, will that be built into the system so they'll automatically?
Yeah, it's an intuitive system, so it will ask questions, and depending on their answers, then it would lead them to more questions and more forms and everything like that. So yes, I'm not going to say there may not be a few kinks in the beginning as we implement this system and start off, but the intent is that it will cover all the situations, and they're still kind of determining the supplier management portion of it. I'm not quite sure if at the chancellor's office level they're going to be doing all the reviews for vendors, or if some of that's going to be delegated at the campus level. Those decisions are still being discussed, but the intent is to make sure we're compliant and we're all following the same system and all making sure that we're getting the appropriate paperwork on that. And so compliance again with tax and withholding, which is often a complicated topic, and when you talk about tax, even if the vendor doesn't charge us sales tax, we still have to collect it. So, ensuring that no steps are missed and we don't have any surprises at the end of the year. I'm sure Liz would appreciate that. Supplier management, so what we kind of discussed, so new supplier requests are reviewed, and if they're not in the system, there will be a system-wide supplier management team to get new suppliers, streamline the supplier registration, onboard, and data experience. And probably what most of you guys don't know, currently we don't have a shared vendor system. So all 23 campuses have their own separate vendor files and vendor database. So for example, a vendor like Home Depot, right? So there are nationwide, I'm sure every single campus has used that vendor. If we've purchased from that vendor, then outside of ProCard, then we would have had to have gotten the tax document from them. So that means they could have filled out that tax document for all 23 campuses. And we frequently get that, from vendors, well, we already filled out this form for this campus and that campus. And I'm like, well, you can give us a copy of what you gave them, but we still need that form in order to onboard you into our campus financial system. So it's a lot of duplicate work and effort for vendors, and they do get frustrated, and rightfully so. So this is an important step to help eliminate a lot of that duplication. Okay. Supporting administrative departments. So what we talked about, those secondary reviews, a lot of times, I might be nudging people, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, hey, where are we at with this review and approval? But you guys don't know that, and this will give you guys the transparency to be able to nudge those departments directly and say, hey, we can see that this request for this consultant that we want to hire is in HR. So do you guys know the status of it? Has that been reviewed and approved? And for HR's say, there are times they have to do outreach with other areas, right? So if it's a matter of contracting out for work that union employees can do, they may have to check with the CSU labor relations person there to verify that, or our campus attorney, our campus counsel, and if there is an issue, they may even need to meet and confer with the union in order to get approval to do that outsourcing work. So those processes sometimes can take weeks, if not months. So, just be aware of that, but you guys will have the visibility to see where things are at and at what point they're kind of on hold, instead of assuming procurement's just sitting on it and hasn't gotten to it yet, and not knowing who to reach out to, right, and that type of thing. Secondary stakeholders. Next slide, please. So that includes accounting groups, for example, GAMES, Reporting Services. So her department is the one who creates the chart fields and manages those, adds and removes folks from the DA process as well. Budget.
There was a box of
budgets.
Tax
advisory and compliance. Part of that's
Busy computer, this is Christina.
Internal audits, we do not have currently a
Yes.
campus internal auditor, but we are subject to a number of audits from the CSU system, as well as various outside audits for the auxiliaries. So there's a lot of documentation that we have to pull, so this should give them access to be able to pull that data directly and not have to reach out to the individual departments for information that they need. Risk management. So if you're going to bring a vendor on site to do a service, then likely we will need to request the insurance from that vendor. So they would be involved in the review and approval of the insurance certs that are submitted. And if so there's something particularly risky, it might need to get Tim's weigh in on whatever service or arrangement we're trying to accomplish. Internal service providers. So we have auxiliaries that we sometimes will contract with. We typically don't issue a purchase order to them, but there's some internal systems, as well as our contracted operators. We have Aramark for food service, we have Follett for bookstore, and there's different vendors that we have on site. So we want to try to streamline those processes and they get paid in a timely manner and have that visibility, right? IT. They're going to be providing some support for this implementation, and afterwards, while we have this software, and web services. So we are also working with IT's campus trainer to support this process, and they will be involved in train the trainer sessions and working with the campus on training once we are implemented and moving forward. So project timeline, next slide, please. So you'll see from this, it looks like we started in 21-22, but actually we started this in 2019, and probably Mike will say even before that, because
2018, 2019.
yeah. So we actually had, I remember going to a workshop in 2019 where we were discussing.
Actually 2014, when we came up with the concept of trying to create an efficient system. So I've been involved in this for a long time. We originally started off with just 4 campuses. So now we're up to how many?
We're up to 9 for first wave.
Okay, 9 for
Yeah.
first wave, yeah.
And we're actually kind of behind the curve. So most private industries already have this. Private educational institutions already have these systems. Even the UC has this system. They've had it now for, I want to say, at least 5-6 years now.
They were over at Stanford, right?
Well, they've had it for 20 years.
Yeah. 20 years at Stanford. Yeah.
So we're a little bit behind the curve. So this is just getting us to a point where we're, competitive and on the same playing field with technology as what other institutions, private organizations, and companies have. So, so you can kind of see by this chart, I know it's a little hard to understand, where we've been working at. So for the requirements and design, the configuration and build, like We've been working on this for a long, long time. And keep in mind, the decisions that are made aren't being made at a campus level. So it's all of the campuses in the first wave with input from other campuses and subject matter experts at the chancellor's office in areas like procurement and accounting for like DOA and business units and everything. So, you know, I always said for myself, I'm not interested in continuing to do business as is because I understand that we are a little bit behind and inefficient. So I feel like this implementation should be based on best practice. Like what, if the CO can provide that guidelines to us that we implement this for best practice, then I think everybody wins, right? So, and I feel like that's really what they've focused to do. So, as Mike mentioned, now we have 9 campuses that are in the first wave. Mike and Tom fought to get our campus in first wave.
Yeah, we need to give special recognition since Anna's here, to Tom Davis, her boss, because he's the executive sponsor for the P2P project and has been pushing this through Cabo and in the CSU to make sure that they understand. And he's been involved in P2P for a long time at other campuses, so he saw the value of what we're trying to do with this. So, Anna, please let Tom know. Thank you.
Yes, we appreciate having that support and being involved in that, because it did give us a voice in being able to provide, some of our information on what our needs and our wants were for this particular implementation. So, go live groups for first wave begin in July 2023, which is this year, and our campus is slated to go live in August of 2023. So it's a coming. So that ends the portion of the P2P session. I wanted to give anybody an opportunity who has questions on P2P to ask that now before we move on to change champions. Are there any questions anybody has? Tab, any questions in the chat? Okay. Yes, Jorge.
Is this only changing the process for requisitions, or is this applied to direct pays as well?
Good question. We are looking at all payments that are being done through AP related to suppliers. So that's the only distinction, right? So if we're making payments to students, faculty, there's a different process for those payments, but anything that's like a supplier payment will be done through the system. There are forms that are being created in the system that will kind of work similar or be like direct pays and that type of thing. So good question.
That leads to my next question then. When you say vendor or supplier, does it have to be someone who physically comes to the campus or provides individual services to the campus? One example is we handle our some external investigations where we pay an outside firm to do the investigation. We would pay them via direct pay.
Mm-hmm.
So would I have to change that process? Or keep going as is?
So the system is built to be intuitive. So it starts off with the request, and how that request then gets translated into a specific, how would we call it, route or process, right? It's determined by like questions that you answer on that form, and it's supposed to be able to determine, okay, well, if this is an on-site service, then it needs to be a requisition that gets processed through procurement. If this is for a simple good, then it'll get pushed through on ProCard, and it won't have to come through procurement. So I believe the same will apply for the forms that AP has as well. Okay. Yeah, Tanya?
Will there be any changes related to ProCard, and then how, is there any integration with this?
Yeah, because Marketplace is part of P2P, so for those goods that you guys buy on ProCard, that process shouldn't change. There are some things that are kind of still being determined, for example, with like catering through Aramark. I know a lot of you guys pay through ProCard. That might get routed on a requisition, perhaps because of hospitality review and approvals that's needed, because right now, sometimes some things fall through the cracks, and then procurement would get questioned by AP, like, well, did the department submit that hospitality form? And they were supposed to submit it prior to the event taking place, and there's some things that are getting missed. So there's some built-in approvals that may change how things are processed, but it shouldn't make that much of an impact on you guys, because that request will just get routed to the appropriate place and be processed internally. So it should make it easier too for you guys to start off there without having to think, because then I know a lot of times you guys will submit a requisition and we'll say, well, this could be on a direct pay, or you submit a direct pay and we're like, well, this needs to be on a requisition. So we're really hopeful that this will eliminate that kind of confusion and go between on those types of things.
The other thing I really wanted to mention is we're moving towards electronic payment. So we're trying to move away from checks, so this is really gonna help us. With the electronic payments, we have more fraud protection. So you don't have somebody trying to copy a check they found in the trash and then they're trying to cash it. So we'll be working with Queens area to try to move forward with how we do the process for electronic payments, and what's the other part of it? EFTs and things like that. So electronic fund transfers. So be aware of that also. So the vendor will be able to see in the process where they are in terms of getting paid. And there'll be still some vendors that are old. I don't know about the rest of you, but I don't think I've written a check for a payment in years, right? So we're finally getting to that point in the CSU that we're going to be implementing that at several of the campuses, and hopefully this will help us getting moved forward for that too. So I just want to make sure that you understood. There's a lot that goes on with what we're trying to do here and creating the efficiencies. And I know that instead of spending 4 hours to write a check, write a bunch of checks, it takes me like 5, 10, 15 minutes to make my payments, online. So that's what we're trying to get to. So we can get to other things. We're doing other things, right? So we want to get to what you got hired in to do. I don't think anybody except my accounting people and the accounting people here, got hired in to handle payments, handle the accounting side, which is very important because we have to report back to the state what it is that we do. But most of you got hired in to do a specific job function. And when you get tied down working on the requisition, or the vendor calls you to want to know, where's my check at, that's what we're trying to eliminate. So everybody has the visibility as to what's going on.
Yeah, and I can't think of one vendor that would complain about not getting paid in a more timely manner.
No. And the vendors now can upload their own invoices into the system.
Right.
You can also, but we stress when you're talking to the people, we should stress to them, they do it, and they can see at any time where it is, like she was saying, where it is in the approval and payment process, so they don't have to call you to see where it is, they can see where it is.
Yeah, so, Debbie.
Just a quick question. You said we're going live in
August.
So how will that affect where normally we start sending requisitions in June to get ready for the new fiscal year? How will that timeline work?
I can't say we've really determined how we're gonna deal with that. I don't wanna cut anybody off. That's such a pivotal time for departments with the year end, and we're gonna have to start the new year in the current system in CFS, right? Because as of typically July 1st, we get the approval from Liz that, we can start inputting requisitions and purchase orders for that fiscal year. So, we won't leave you guys high and dry on that. There is gonna be some overlap with having POs that get inputted in that system and then trying to finish those out. But in terms of the blankets, we still need to make a determination if we're gonna,
We did mention too, I want to mention too, that we are going to try to start off with some of the customers already uploaded. Some of the vendors were already in the system, so we'll be able to get them going right away.
Yeah, so they are you talking about like system-wide, they're gonna have the,
Right.
They're finalizing, they've been working on the list of most commonly used vendors system-wide, so that way they can get a number of the vendors already onboarded. So you shouldn't have that problem, but it's just with the blankets, if there's something critical that you guys need right away, and I know you'll probably have some bus charters that we need to put in right on July 1st, and different things like that. So we will work with you guys to make this as painless as possible. Again, there may be some overlap, and there's gonna be probably some POs that will be processed through CFS system because they were input in there, and just to finish those out, and then we'll have to determine, maybe we'll do blankets for 3 months initially, and once we got all the kinks with the CSUB, we'll look at having those blankets moved into the new system. So yeah, we have thought about that. We didn't have the ability to pick when we were gonna go live. So yeah, realizing that there may be some overlap with CFS and our P2P. Yes.
Okay, Adriana is asking, can you please go over what the approval routing process will look like? Or will this be covered in a later training module?
It will be covered in training, but I have it on the agenda to talk for later, but there will be a road show next month where the core team from the Chancellor's Office is going to be coming and presenting, and there's going to be like 4 different sessions, so we'll be sending invitations out for that. There will also be a town hall that's open for everybody, so that information is going to be forthcoming, and it will be able to give you guys a glimpse into that system where they'll actually show you what it looks like, and probably put in a demonstration of requisition and approval and all that good stuff.
Yeah, that roadshow is on February 14th, date hits me for some reason.
Right?
For something.
Valentine's Day.
Marcy asked if, I think she wanted to, Marina to repeat the question.
Oh, what
So
Jorge
she could hear it.
asked?
Yes.
I don't remember what
I know. You were asking about direct pays versus requisitions, submitting those for vendors, and I discussed how the system's intuitive, and we'll be able to make that determination based on questions that you respond to, what the appropriate payment method or payment delivery is for that, right? Was there a second part on that I might have missed? I can't think of it.
The second part was with regards to persons providing services.
Okay, so persons providing services on campus, so or remotely. So there is a difference in terms of insurance, right? So if a person's providing an on-site service, then we have to obtain their insurance. If it's off-site, more than likely we wouldn't require that. But then that's where the system will make that determination. Oh, if this is an off-site service, then we may not need it to be on a purchase order, and it might get processed on a direct pay. All right, any other questions regarding P2P?
I have a question. Mine is regarding the chart fields and the input of chart fields into the system. Just because when we're working on the grants, like in an SME, we're constantly getting new ones. So is there gonna be a way for like us to input the chart fields and the appropriate assigners, or how is that process going?
So I think they're still discussing DOA, but I believe there will be integration, so it will do verification in our CFS system, because the DOA isn't going to be in P2P, but there is going to be some behind the scenes where you guys won't have to do anything like log into CFS, but it will do validation to make sure that it is an existing and valid chart stream. So if it's not in there yet, and you do have to allow time for processing, because once you submit the forms, there could be a week, 2-week delay for when it actually gets processed, right? So you just have to be mindful of that. It won't even let you put that chart field in if it's not a valid existing chart field in the DOA. Anything I might have missed on that, Liz?
Liz, is on the chart field side, is that your house, or does that come from the grant side of the house? But you still do the chart field, right?
You know what, now, I don't set them up for grants, so.
Okay.
Yeah, each auxiliary does their own chart field
Okay.
creation and maintenance. So, yeah, you just have to be mindful to maybe reach out to them and ask them when that might be available, or if they can notify you when it's available. I know general accounting on the state side does send an email notification when they've processed it. So I would assume the auxiliaries do the same, but you'd have to reach out to them to verify.
We'll make a note to ask about that, because a lot of other areas, the grant side of the house, separated from campus. If you're on campus, we're all kind of integrated together. But I'll make sure I ask about that.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to the Change Champion Networks, since I want to be mindful of time. So just a little, it started off in the beginning.
Sorry.
So something new to me for an implementation project is the inclusion of change management, which is an approach to prepare, support, and assist users, teams, and campus in making an organizational change for successful adoption. So I will say for this particular implementation, the Chancellor's Office procurement was very mindful that this would be a big impact for campuses and a heavy carry for us to try to do it each independently on our own. So they have really worked hard to provide us really good resources. They hired somebody in the procurement department specifically to manage the project. She's outstanding. Her name is Tu, and they also hired a consulting firm who specializes in Jagger implementations, because our CSU BUY system is actually a Jagger system. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Jagger. So they have a lot of expertise in building these systems, designing them for campuses, and they've been outstanding and supportive, and they also have a change management team. So that's been a really interesting process for me to be involved in, because I haven't been doing that before, but it really makes us think about the impact and how, when and how often to bring you guys in to keep you involved, informed of what's going to happen, so there's no surprises come August when people are like, what is this? Why do we have to do this? So what is the purpose of a Change Champion Network? I want to start off with what is a Change Champion? So it's a functional or social leader, middle management, and subject matter expert from different areas on the campus who are trusted by colleagues, stakeholders, and executives for their insight and understanding of their department and campus, right? So the purpose is to support the campus change team, which is myself, Mike, and the rest of our campus team, really, and properly assessing and mitigating risk to adoption and value realization. You can do this by observing what your leaders do and say related to the change. So, whether it's negative feedback, positive feedback, let us know so we can try to address it early on. And if there's a way for us we of course will bring that to the core team. And if there's a way that they can make a modification or make a change, now's the time to know before we are fully implemented. But keep in mind, I know we'll be making changes, while we have this system, but we want to get that valuable feedback and be able to provide it and address it, so nobody's feeling like we're overlooking any concerns they have in this implementation. Listening to what members of impacted populations are saying about the change. We ask for your feedback on potential risks and associated mitigations. There's a health check process form that we will send you guys out after meetings and ask you guys just to provide some feedback on kind of where you feel we're at with the information that we provided to you, where we're at in the process, just to give us an idea of maybe what we're not addressing and what areas we need to provide more support in. Engaging with users prior to go live and engaging with users post live to support adoption, because there is changeover on campus and we have new people coming in, so they will not benefit from the sessions we do early on in training, and so we want to be able to help support any new folks coming in so they're not kind of confused or don't know where to start. Of course, we have our team in procurement that's always available to help, but sometimes people, for whatever reason, may not want to contact us, maybe feel slightly intimidated because they're not familiar with the system. So oftentimes they will go to their colleagues and their peers for that support. Next slide. So benefits of a Change Champion Network. Kind of already gave you guys what the background is for a Change Champion, but ability to influence and promote change, innovative and forward-thinking mindset, understanding and appreciation of CSU BUY business practices, and desire to help others succeed. I will admit, there used to be a time in my life where I was very adverse to change, and anytime a new system was introduced, I'm like, oh God, why do we have to do this? And get frustrated. But as I get older, I realize the only thing constant is change. And while there is always that learning curve, and there are always a few bumps in the road, there's a reason for the change, and I think once we embrace it and accept it, I think it becomes far easier for us to move on, and oftentimes find that that change has helped us and benefited us, and benefited the campus, right? So we want to get the word out and really try to promote this change. So change champion expectations. We'd like that you attend the monthly meetings. We will have both the Zoom and in-person option for those meetings, so that way you guys, have it in different formats. Share the information that we provide to you guys in these meetings to your peers, to those in your department that need this information. Oftentimes, in my experience, emails and meeting invites get overlooked, so your assistance is really vital in getting the word out and preparing peers, colleagues, staff, and management on changes to come. Okay? And we will send out this slideshow after the meeting with the health checks, so that way you guys have that information. Next slide, please. So how to provide feedback. There'll be a monthly health check, online form that we will send out to you guys. I don't know if you can see the questions, but, it helps us determine what are the areas of risk that we need to look at. If you guys aren't clear on the necessity for the change, if you feel like leaders may not be supporting the change, that's the kind of feedback we'd appreciate, so we can make sure to address that with our managers, with upper management, with executives levels, so that way they're aware of the challenges that we might be facing and how we can make improvements to get that information out and get that buy-in. Because honestly, everybody's gonna probably touch the system, from users that submit requisitions to managers that approve requisitions and approve payments. So, there's really not very many staff, I feel, and managers that aren't going to have an impact with this change and have some role to play in this implementation and in the system. So again, we'll be sending out monthly change champion touch point communications. So we ask that after the meeting, you relay that information to your peers, to your team, to your department. Ways you can do that is maybe send out an email to them, perhaps ask for some time to discuss it or present it in a department meeting, or even, if you want to schedule a little separate meeting with those that are more involved in requisitioning process, so that they're aware of what's coming. So this kind of shows you how we're going to do the meetings and what the topics are going to be. So our intent is to have monthly meetings scheduled at least through August till we implement, to kind of keep everybody aware and apprised of what's coming. There will be activities like user acceptance training that's going to occur, where we're at with that, as well as campus training. So we will have lots of resources, and we are mindful that people learn in a variety of ways, and so we are mindful to provide various types of training, so that way if there's those that prefer a manual as opposed to watching a 15-minute video, we want to be mindful of that. So next steps. So begin holding CSUB awareness conversations with your team after this kickoff. Kind of give them a heads up, because again, we send out emails and we try to disseminate this information, but a lot of times people are busy and they may not fully grasp or understand. The roadshow is scheduled for February the 14th. There's going to be 4 sessions. You guys will likely be invited to probably 2 of the sessions, so that way you can get a glimpse of the system for those of you that submit requisitions, and then the town hall, so you can get more information. I won't say you have to attend both sessions, but I really recommend that you attend the one where it's inputting requisitions, so you can get a demonstration of what that's going to look like. Participate in monthly change meetings. Our next meeting is on March 15th. Is that correct? We don't have one in February, Bianca?
No, because of the roadshow.
Oh, the roadshow, okay. So yeah, so the roadshow will kind of count as an informal meeting for that. And then once we send out the information after this meeting to complete the health check form by March the 8th. And then on a go-forward basis, they'll be requested 1 week before the monthly meeting. And kind of embrace that change and know it's coming and support us as best you can, because we do really want to make this a seamless implementation and transition for the campus. I know that there's going to be some work that we're all going to have to put in, and there's going to be sometimes we may have some hiccups, but you know, in the long run, this will truly benefit campus users, because things do fall through the cracks like via email. There's sometimes we've missed requisitions from processing, and we won't know until, you know, maybe a month later when somebody says, well, I submitted that, did you not get it? Either something happened in Adobe Sign, or an approver forgot to approve it, or the person that processes all the requisitions that come through procurement. And there are times when we may get like 100 in a day from facilities mainly, but when we have all the annual renewals for the blankets and stuff like that, we are just, the volume of it just coming in is just, it's a lot. So it's easy for some things to fall through the cracks. So, you know, this system will really prevent those situations from happening. So, next slide, please. Bianca was wonderful enough to create a web page that's under procurement, that's going to have all the PDE information, the newsletters that we get from the core team, from the chancellor's office. We will post to this site, you know, any slides, any training, any information. You can just check it periodically. If people have questions and want to know more about it, you can direct them to this site so they have that information at a glance. So it's now up and running, and we'll be adding additional content as we get it. There's also a website at the chancellor's office as well, a system-wide website. That's it for me, guys. Any questions on the change champions, or if you forgot to ask something on PDP?
It's not related to the two meetings that you provided today, but is CSU by up and running right now? Because I've tried to access it today and I've not had success.
So I appreciate you bringing that up. So Sylvia brought up that the CSU Buy Marketplace, she's unable to access it. So because we created this new page, we migrated the link to this page. So yeah, just put in this name of this page, and it should provide you the correct link for the marketplace.
So what I did is I made, because CSU Buy, how we were talking about, is 3 phases. So this is the new main page. So CSU Buy, because this is talking about like what CSU Buy actually is. So the phase 1 was the marketplace, phase 2 was the contract, spend analytics and sourcing, which is what Maria was talking about. And then phase 3 is procure to pay. So this is the new main page. So if you go here to marketplace, this is where the link is now.
So the link got migrated, so just be aware. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Bianca or myself on that. Sorry for that confusion.
And I kind of did that on purpose so that people would be like, oh, what is P2P? Like, so I kind of moved it on purpose so that people would be like, oh, it's different. What is this? Marketplace P2P. And maybe they would click on it. So that was my fault. But I intentionally did it. Yeah.
They're saying they can't see.
Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. Sorry. But,
Jorge, you had a question?
Yeah, just for clarification, the link to the marketplace is the same. For example, if you have it saved on your taskbar, it's just the.
yeah, you'd have to resave it.
You know, I think
You have to,
it'll
yeah.
feel like a broken link.
Right.
Because it's been changed and renamed
Yeah.
and migrated to a different site. So yeah, you have to go in there and, so clear your cache and delete the saved one you have and save the new one. So sorry about that, folks. We have gotten a couple of inquiries on that today. Just making sure you're always.
I don't have money to spend.
Any other questions that anybody has? Again, truly appreciate you guys all taking the time to be with us today, and I really.
Let's thank Marina for the presentation, my team. Bianca, at least you probably haven't met her before, but she'll be sending out information to you periodically. And please make sure you get some food, make a sandwich.
Make sure you grab the cup, because those are for our change champions. Take one on your way out.
Did everybody get a cup yet?
Or fill some up
some
with
people
water
get a
that we
cup.
have back there. Feel free to get some more snacks. And, you know, we appreciate you coming today, and we really hope to see you in the future meetings and working with us to make sure we get this implementation done in a way that, you know, the campus is aware and supportive of what we're trying to accomplish, because we do want it to be a system that's gonna make everybody's lives easier and not just one single area, and a lot more transparency. So you guys know where things are at, because I'm sure it's frustrating when you have to go through the line and see where that bouncing ball is, and now you'll be able to find that yourself and monitor it.
And I forgot to introduce myself. So does everybody know who I am? Mike Chavez.
Who doesn't know
AVP.
Mike Chavez?
Been here forever and a day. And I work for Tom Davis, our executive sponsor. Just wanted to really emphasize those that are here and those that are online. You are our customer. As I remember watching, if you've ever seen World Trade Center, you know, you say, you are my mission, and that's basically what we're telling you. You're our mission for what we want to do to get this thing taken care of. So anytime you run into a problem, anytime you have a question, please reach out to us, because we want to make sure that this transition is as smooth as possible, that you embrace it, and know that the Board of Trustees is aware of what we're doing. The Chancellor is aware of what we're doing. The Vice Chancellor, Steve Brelia, who oversees the business side of the house, knows what we're doing. This is brought up quite a bit within Cabo, and the Vice Presidents were given a presentation as to what we're doing with this project. So Cabinet, the President, the Cabinet, so this isn't something we just thrown out at you. It's something that we have full support of, and we want to make sure we have your support and that we support you. So anytime you run into a problem, make sure you reach out to us. My boss, his thing is, his saying is, we got to provide customer service as much as possible to the campus, and that's our main goal, providing customer service to you guys. So you are our mission, and thank you for attending. Take something to eat. I wish the people that were online were able to get something to eat, but if it's something that you're going back with, take them a cookie, take them something.
So for anybody participating online, to get your mug or your cup, please contact Bianca.
Yes.
Okay, because we want to make sure we get those out to you guys as well. And for the AV person, if there's one or two online, we can mail those to you guys too. So just reach out to Bianca. We appreciate you participating via Zoom as well. That's all I have, folks. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Appreciate that.
Sorry, okay, I told them to email me if they have any questions after the session and if they want their water bottle.
I jumped in for Mike because he was out with our students. I'm doing more stuff like our CSUB. I'm the only one